Pastor Dan, the Preacher Man here. I'm enjoying myself at the conference for small churches up here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I just want to share some thoughts this morning about stewardship. This relates to not just small churches, but to all churches, in fact, to everybody, when you put everything in perspective. And we have this account in the book of Exodus about the calling of Moses. And Moses is there with God. God is calling him to go back to his people and to take a message to Pharaoh to let his people go. So Moses says, well, how will people listen to me? And God asked Moses, what is in thy hand? And so here we have the account where Moses says, well, I have this rod, I have this staff. And God says, throw it on the ground. It turns into a snake, and it goes forward from there. The idea is that it's not what we don't have. Moses thought maybe I don't have the resources, the reputation, or anything else. But if God be with you, who can be against you? And so we have to reframe everything, reframe our questions about resources. I know whether you're a family, a county, a state, or a federal government, one of the questions we often ask ourselves is, what resources do we not have? We don't have enough resources to carry this out, when the reality should be, what do we have at hand, and let's use what we have for the glory of God. Consider the time when Jesus was ministering, and he turned to his disciples and says, how many loaves of bread do you have? In other words, what do you have in your hand? What do you have? And that leads to the account of feeding 4,000, which we have in Mark chapter 8. And there's another account where Jesus is at a wedding, and this is in John chapter 2, and his mom comes up to him and says, they have no wine. You know what they did have? They had water. And we know the rest of the story because Jesus turned that water into wine. I like the passage in Philippians, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I think we need to rephrase and look at things as, what do we have versus what we don't have? And if we work with what we have and carry it out according to God's mandate, I think things will be better. And I, from my own personal experience in a church plant, we had nothing. We started off with 3 families. We had nothing. But we had God. And I saw wonderful things happen as we started growing. We didn't have a formal treasurer. We didn't have a budget prepared at this point in time. We were just meeting, and we were worshiping, and we had a Bible study, and that's all we had. But God worked with that. And as we were growing, a local store was having a sale on folding chairs, and we pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going to pick up a couple of chairs for the church and donate it. Well, come that next Sunday, we had more people than we expected, but we also had plenty of chairs. We didn't have a pastor for about the first 8 or 9 months, but we had 4 men who had delivered a sermon at one point in time, so we formed a team, a preaching team. We call it the Spiritual Oversight Committee, because that's what Baptists do. We have committees for everything. And so we had messages most Sundays. One Sunday we didn't have anybody available to prepare a message, but we had a missionary visiting, and that missionary's story became our sermon for that particular Sunday. So that's what we did, and God blessed the activities of that church. We didn't have property, but we were praying about where we would go, where we would rent, and all this was on our mind. But we trusted in the Lord, and one day this farmer was visiting us, and he stood up and said, I'm going to donate 8.5 acres of land to you. So, that stuck with me for a long, long time. Music is a wonderful part of worship, and I don't have much of a music background myself, but God has blessed us in the music ministry. In fact, when God called me, I said, God, I'm going to depend upon you to provide the music because I don't have a clue. And in the 2 churches I've pastored, God has always provided. We work with what we got, and God will provide. So I'll just make it brief. Just challenge you to change your paradigm. Let's stop asking ourselves questions about what we don't have. Let's look at what we do have and use it all for the glory of God. Thank you for watching. I hope this encourages you in some way. Take care and God bless.